our channel, Shruthi. Thank you for
Hi.
joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So you have been practicing law, right?
Yes.
And you're into the academics now. So could you just tell us about your journey so far in the space of law?
Okay. So I did my bachelor's in law, master's in law,
Okay.
and then I practiced law for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then the last 6 years I was teaching law. I
Okay.
shifted from practice to teaching,
Okay.
and then now I'm presently doing my PhD in law.
Oh, wonderful. Any specific area where you're doing your PhD?
I'm doing my PhD in uh, basically understanding how the state responds to victims, survivors of trafficking
Okay.
and other kinds of crimes, especially focusing on women.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any particular reason why you moved from practice to academics?
I was always passionate about academics.
Okay.
Uh, I think I knew it right from the time that I finished my bachelor's, and that's how I did my master's. But I always knew that before getting into academics, speaking to a younger generation, we need to have some on the ground experience. So
Okay.
that is one of the reasons why I consciously decided that I will practice first for a few years, gain experience, and then get on to teaching so that I can relate to what is given in the textbooks and
Okay.
how things are applied on the ground.
Why law then?
Actually, a good question because I happen to be in law.
Okay.
In my 12th standard, up till my 12th standard, I wanted to become a psychologist.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
that was my aim. I had taken up science stream, in fact.
Uh-huh.
But I knew one thing in 11th and 12th that I did not want to become an engineer because there are
Okay.
so many engineers in Bangalore.
Okay.
and uh, and I was not interested in doing medicine either. So it was towards the end of towards board exams when one of my friends was actually studying for law exams.
Okay.
And that time we didn't have the common law and admission test.
Mm-hmm.
We had individual law entrances for each law school.
Okay.
So she was trying to prepare for those exams. And then when I spoke to her is when I realized, wow, law is something which is coming up, and there is so much scope which I saw in that area. It seemed it was my notion of law was what we see in the movies, that you have to wear a gown, go to court, and that's it. So I didn't know that there were so many other opportunities in law. And she told me, no, there is corporate law, there is, working with NGOs, there's working in policy making, research. And that is when I was like, okay, I think this is something worth exploring. And that's how, in the last minute, I changed from psychology to law. And I think that's a good decision.
So can we say law just happened?
Law just happened.
Okay. And I hope that's a happy decision also.
Yes, yes.
Okay. How's it been so far in this space?
It's been an amazing journey so far. Like I said, I definitely don't regret my decision taking up law. For instance, today, if you see just law as a profession itself, when I took up law, it was the next year that the common law and admission test started, which is basically you can say the exams, the
CET of
common CET of law.
law. Yeah.
And at that time, there were just, I think, if I remember the figures correctly, there were about 12,000 or so students all over India who wrote law, this exam. And today, uh, in 2024, I think, about more than 1 lakh students have written the law entrance exam.
Which
So,
is wonderful.
which is wonderful. Like, the interest that is there in law today as a profession is tremendous. And even the opportunities which you have. Earlier, I still remember when I was trying to decide that I have to take up law, some of my close ones told me, law is a profession which should be taken by people who don't get anything else. You either become an engineer, doctor, or something else. And if nothing, you become, you just, for the degree's sake, you do law. I think that was a belief, I mean, that was a perception long time back. But that perception has changed today. It's not about law is taken as a career consciously by people because of the amount of opportunities. You take any university today, everyone starting a law college. And that's the kind of, scope which law has. And in every aspect of your life, right from, us living, right, till the time you go to your job, you are, signing contracts, you are doing a podcast, everything's governed by law, right? So the scope of law is also a lot. I mean, it's not a field which is very narrow. It is a field which is very broad. There are tremendous opportunities, and I think that is something which is really good about law. I don't need to stick to one, like I have skipped from practice to academics. Tomorrow you never know. I might just decide to go into research, policy making. So it's up to you. So I think it's amazing.
Could you just elaborate on the kind of opportunities that law has today for students?
Okay. So again, earlier, if you were to take law, you would, someone say, are you good at arguing? Do you like
Right.
debating? Right? So then fine, this person has a scope in law, because you generally see that you have to be quick, quick thinking while you are in the court, you're practicing law, you have to be good with words, communication. So of course, if there is practicing, which is I would say a traditional form of the legal profession. But apart from that, if you're not good at that, also, there are so many opportunities in law. You have corporate laws. So in corporate, you basically work, let's say each company today has a in-house counsel. They have a group of lawyers assisting them with various contracts, labor law related laws, mergers, acquisitions. So you need lawyers there.
Okay.
Then, so if that is for people who are probably interested in working with corporate, in the corporate sector. Apart from that, you have people who are interested in social work. So for them, there are opportunities as a lawyer to work with non-governmental organizations, to work in the government itself with different departments. For example, just the Department of Women and Child Development, right? Or you have there are people who go into United Nations, because United Nations has offices in India also, where they need lawyers to help them out with different research and everything. Then of course you have research oriented jobs also. There are a lot of think tanks which need lawyers who are researching into law, so that they understand what are the ground realities, how is a law being applied on the ground, and then what are the policy suggestions we can make to the government. So that's what these think tanks essentially do. So that is also another career opportunity in law. Then if you are interested in communications and you like giving gyan, right? So you can become a teacher. Even the teaching, teaching is also another profession you can consider in law. Or if you don't want, you decide that, no, I can't read law, I don't want to do it. There's still, law will help you in terms of, there are many people who actually take up law and then do IAS, your public service examinations. They get into that. And law is a very good, solid foundation for you to crack those examinations and get into the government also, government services. Then you have, of course, we know many of the famous politicians who are lawyers, right? So, of course, learning law gives you that good background of how things work in the country, right? So, and having a law always helps you then build your profession as maybe even a politician. And then these days things are getting even more exciting. Even the type of laws that you study, or you can probably get an expertise in, is like, there are so many different options. You have now with artificial intelligence coming in, so you have laws which are going to concentrate in the area of AI and technology.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yes. So how AI is going to take up our lives, right? You must have heard about concerns about privacy, data protection, right? So again, these are spheres where law is required to regulate, right? So there's opportunity in that. Then there are people who are getting specializations in aviation law, right? Air and space law as well. So you know that recently we have the space tourism which has
Correct.
started.
Yes.
So again, when you're sending people to space, there's going to be a lot of legal concerns. You know, what happens in space? So if you, let's say, you know, if something happens to a tourist on board one of the space shuttles, who's responsible, right? Or if, let's say, a space object happens to crash on Earth and destroy a particular area on Earth, right? And maybe it's another country. So
What happens?
what
then?
happens, right? All of this is governed by law. So as in even another area which is up and coming is the IPR, you know, intellectual property rights, especially now with AI. You know, everyone's getting their assignments done with AI, their speeches done with AI. There's a tough, you know, there's a tussle between artists who create actual, and then AI is just, you know, coming
Showing
and
that, yeah.
showing that, right? So this entire tussle of, okay, who gets intellectual property rights? If today I draw something and AI is essentially copied it from someone else,
Right.
so have I violated their, you know, intellectual property rights? So again, this is another area which is really people are talking about a lot. And then you have sports laws, like
wow,
you
okay.
know, things which essentially govern the sports area for the cricketers or football players, their contracts, you know, how things go. There is so much, you know, you have IPL itself, which is a mega franchise, and then within that there are so many small nuances, you know, in so all of that is again law. And whether you, it is fashion, I've someone was telling me the other day, there's something called fashion law, that you
So
know,
there's law everywhere.
there's law
literally.
everywhere.
Right?
Yes.
So the notion of law in a common man's mind is you're a lawyer, you fight for justice, you wear the coat or the gown, like you
Yes.
called it, and then go to the court, fight and come back. This is the notion of a lawyer in general. But now I don't know, you've just touched upon everything that's
Everything.
happening,
Yes.
literally. Wonderful. Okay, that's something I don't think many of us
Yes,
know
I think
about.
like the students who are now, like, you know, trying to think what should I do. I think law is definitely an area they can explore, because it's not just about person who can speak well. If I don't want to speak, I just want to research. Maybe I'm good at reading, writing. You know, there is researchers in law who, which is required. So you know, it's not just a threshold of few people, you know, who want to who can do law. Anyone can do law, study law, and gain and benefit and thrive in the field.
Or should we put it across as more crimes across different areas, and that is why this area is also expanding. Many people are opting to be in this space as well, so the opportunities are increasing because the crimes are increasing.
The
What's your take on that?
I think the opportunities to see crimes have always been there, right?
Okay.
But yes, I would agree with you in terms of fact that the types of crimes have increased. Again, more related to AI, cyber crimes. Of
True.
course, the nature of crimes is also evolving. So definitely, whenever there is a crime, there has to be a law.
Opportunity as well.
Yes,
True.
yes, there has to be. There will be an opportunity for
Nice.
students as well.
So you've seen both sides of this space. You've practiced law, and you're probably bringing up the new lawyers as well, right? How hard has it been when you were practicing law? Has it been hard?
It was hard. See, it all depends finally on a person's interest, right? Practicing law is a very different ball game than teaching, right? So both have their own pros and cons. The hardest part, which I found in practice, was every day is a different challenge. You never know what the judges are going to throw at you, right? Throw at you as in, ask you, and what area of law do you have to explore, how the clients are going to speak to you, what do you expect from them, how do you communicate with them. Each case is different. right? So, of course, there are many people who find this the interesting part of law, practicing law, that, you know, every day is different. At the same time, probably for someone like me, I thought that maybe it's just a little too much for me in the long term. I would say that I think my passion for teaching was more. Even now, I actually don't mind practicing, but for me, the hardest part was going before the judge and, you know, putting out your point, and there's so much of thought behind it,
I want
right?
to get to that. I'm
There is,
trying to bring that
yes,
out.
there's thought, so much of preparation. There
True.
is, you need to really know what you're talking about,
Have
right?
the
So,
cases been difficult for you? I mean, you know, you also travel into that space, right? With whoever you're fighting for,
yes.
right? So has that been really difficult?
It's not difficult, but as lawyers, like my seniors would always tell me that, you know, you need to cut off yourself from the case. You cannot get involved too much also, because I still remember there was, you know, there are different kinds of cases that you get, and some of the cases really touch you. You know,
True.
if I was to explain it to someone else also, they'd be like, oh, this is so sad, what is happening, right? But you need to keep yourself away from that, and then you need to go, you know, go with it very objectively. You know that, okay, this is the law, and this is what my client has done, and this is how I can apply the law to this, and then, you know, help the client. That is finally your goal when you are practicing, right? So whether your client is actually someone who's done something wrong or is an innocent person, right? So either ways, you need to stand up for your client, and you need to make sure that the law is sort of read in the favor of your client.
I have a question there. So, keeping this as a business way, when you get a client, right? You can give me this perspective basis your experience or in general
Okay.
for a lawyer. So when a client approaches you, do you look at that case as a case in general, or do you go judgmental when the client approaches you itself? Because sometimes when the situation's put across to you, I'm sure you know whether the person's right or wrong, or you know who is the right person there, right? Whose side is right, or where is it fair, or where is it justified? But say the other side approaches you, are you somebody who takes it up? Or
Okay.
how do lawyers really accept
Hmm.
that and fight for that client, knowing that that's not the right
I
thing to
think
do?
I would just speak generally on this,
Okay.
that for a lawyer, when they speak to a client, there is no right or wrong, right? They cannot be judgmental, right? Of course, you know, subconsciously, we all have our opinions
Right.
about things, but that is something which is definitely not something which should come out while you are speaking to your client, because ultimately, all of them have a right to a counsel, and you are there to provide that counsel for them,
Okay.
right? So they all keep it aside, but then I know that there are, as an individual, you can take certain decisions, maybe that, you know, I perhaps would not want to represent someone who has done a particular crime which I think is morally, you know,
Not
of
right.
course, all crimes are morally wrong, but perhaps there might be some places where I want to draw a boundary, that I will not represent this person, right? That's fine. That's an individual choice which any lawyer takes, you know. But then you are nobody to judge a lawyer who would otherwise not draw this line and, you know, take up any case which comes to them. So I think that's up to them. That's a professional call they have to take.
Moving out of the criminal
Okay.
law side of things, um, out of all your cases that you've fought, what's been the toughest one?
Toughest, I think every case, I would say, has had its own struggle. So in when it comes to cases of human trafficking, see, every case, of course, is you know, very tough in terms of emotionally also to deal with, because when you speak to the survivors, you get to know their stories. That is when you really feel that, you know, you have such privileged lives, right? So in terms of you know, just to bring to the forefront the type of case that we get, there was one particular case which stands out, where there were two survivors of trafficking. They had been trafficked from a foreign country and brought to India, and one of them was a major, and the pretext on which she was got to Bangalore was that this accused had married her, right? So that's one of the modus operandi of a lot of people who traffic girls, especially from outside. They get married to them, bring them to India, and then sell them.
Okay.
Right? So he had got her on the pretext of marriage, and then got her to Bangalore, and then put her into this trade. At the same time, another survivor who was rescued in the same case, she was a minor. She was less than 14 years of age when she was rescued. And while we were defending them in court, representing these survivors in court, I saw very two different aspects being played out. One was the younger one, the minor who had survived, was very brave. Like, she came to court, she testified against the accused. She looked at them and said, "These are the people who did all this to me." Her story is pretty miserable, but I wouldn't want to elaborate on that. But she even went to the extent of showing her scars to the judge and saying that this is, they deserve to be punished. So that was one. In the same case, the next testimony was supposed to be of the major, who was married to one of the accused. And, she was completely opposite. She was not even treating this, understanding that she had been trafficked. That is a very difficult position to be in, especially when it comes to majors, when you're dealing with survivors who are above 18, who have the right to take their own decisions, right? You need to make them they need to understand that they are trafficked and they are being exploited, which was lacking in this case. Every time we spoke to her, she just made up a story and then she told us. So we are like, this is not what you had told the police, right? And then she would again tell her story in a very different manner. So she is trying to not, help the case, right? And you sort of do get a little frustrated. You're like, you're trying to help a person out, right? But then off the record, when you really speak to her, she would be like, this is my husband, right? And I will do what he says. He thinks of only the best for both of us, right? If this is how we are supposed to bring in money, then that is how it is. And I said, he might just go to jail. So what will happen to you after this? He's like, no, I know he'll come take me. I have faith in him. So I have nothing against him. So, so these kind of cases is like, you don't know what to do, because of course you can't force them into saying anything, right, that they don't want to say in court. At the same time, of course, the testimony gets weak in court. But it's something which happens, it's very common, especially when we have seen a lot of trafficking cases where there's a word for it. It's called Stockholm syndrome. So basically the syndrome is that when you are with your perpetrator, right, and you, over a period of time, you start associating good things with that perpetrator, right, saying that, okay, let's say if I was with my parents, I'm from a very poor background, we used to hardly get one meal a day, but now I'm with him, even though I have to do a little bad things, but he's giving me 3 meals a day. I have, extra cash to buy things, so I think this is good for me. What will I do outside this? The police, the government is not good. I think I should be with this person, right? So this is over a period of time. Medically, I think they call this the Stockholm syndrome, which develops where you don't want to get out of this. right? And you become a part of the system. And so those cases are definitely some of the toughest, because ultimately the witness, the survivor has to testify
Speak
in
up,
court,
yeah.
has to speak up, and especially if it's a major, then there's hardly anything that you can do.
But how do you handle
So
these kind of people?
you can't handle them. You just speak to them. It's finally up to them. There are see, they are given good care in terms of they'll be getting rehabilitated in the shelter homes or wherever, right? So ultimately, they have to realize that they need this was wrong, and they need to come forward and testify. There is nothing else that you can do. You can only work with them over a period of time, the social workers, but that's all, nothing more.
As a lawyer, according to you, what do you think is the reason why um, these survivors take this kind of a thought process?
I think there are a lot of socio-economic factors to
Huh.
this, right? So, uh, in a country where so many people are living below poverty, right? The means of earning income, right? Unemployment, illiteracy, right? All of these add up to people finally becoming vulnerable. So we generally term these groups as vulnerable groups, and there can be various factors, right? But generally, we have seen it's poverty is a major factor in them becoming vulnerable, and then the accused taking advantage of this
That
vulnerability
vulnerability.
and then you know uh, sort of convincing them that this is a better path for you.
So you said there were laws across different sectors. Are there Indian laws for people below poverty line? Is there something that can help them?
Help in terms of what?
Uh, are there policies or government anywhere they can see? So finally they come in or fall, fall prey to all of this for money, because they're, they lack home, shelter, food, basic necessities of life, right? So are there any systems, laws, policies that can protect them from this?
Okay. Um, See, there are laws. There are laws which effectively deal with, calling, let's say, trafficking a crime, child labor is a crime. Uh, of course, apart from those laws, there are a lot of initiatives by different government organizations. For example, you have the National Legal Services Authority, right? The Legal Services Authority, which is present in each state and district and taluk level as well. They are supposed to, they look into, providing free legal services for people who cannot afford it, right? And different categories of vulnerable groups, including women, children. So they can provide them free legal aid. And then also they sort of are the ones who help with ensuring that the survivors or any other person in need gets connected to a scheme which is available with the government, which can help them. For example, now if there is a scheme for the elderly, right? So in that terms, the Legal Services Authority is sort of like a connecting factor where an elderly could approach, and then they can say, okay, there is this scheme available for you where the government is doing this for you, and then we'll help you through
Okay.
getting these. So there are a lot of such schemes by the government. Then there are either the Legal Services Authority, or there are NGOs who are doing a remarkable work in terms of connecting people to these schemes, right? Because see, apart from poverty, one of the main reasons for a lot of crimes which take place against the vulnerable group is also unawareness.
Unawareness, yeah.
Right? So they don't know. It's not about education as such, right? It's about do I know that this is wrong, this is right? And even in terms of the schemes, there is lack of awareness.
Correct.
that okay, I can get this from the government, right? How do I go about this, right? So uh, in those areas also the government keeps trying, definitely. Then there are a lot of awareness programs which are run by the governments using the radio especially, where the poorest of the poor who generally could listen to these things, and also through they take a lot of help from colleges. Like I know in law schools you have legal services clinics which have started. Even in other colleges they're supposed to run legal services clinics, which where any person can approach the college and they can get them in touch with appropriate authorities.
Okay.
So that is a very good initiative which the government takes. So take the help of the students to create more awareness, and then create a pathway for the vulnerable to approach uh, them so that they can be connected to the appropriate authorities.
Okay. So Shruti, can you highlight a couple of situations where on a day-to-day basis people face these kind of situations and probably do not think about reporting for various reasons on their own, but if you could highlight those instances and say that there is judicial system to help you out for these kind of situations, it would probably help create that awareness as well.
Okay. So, first of all, I would like to start by saying that our laws, our systems are increasingly becoming friendlier towards the common man.
Okay.
Right? So, what people need to realize is you do not need to be scared of the system. Right? We are, of course, I will not say that it is a foolproof, that you will not find any obstacle on your way. But at the same time, you need to have some confidence in the system as well, right? If, for example, you, since we were talking about trafficking and child labor, if you see, let's say, a child who is begging on the street, right? Who is coming and selling you roses, right? What do? It's a common sight we have seen in Bangalore also. So, what do? In such instances, there are appropriate authorities and even helplines to whom you can actually report that such a thing is happening. For example, you have the child helpline 1098. You can call them up and they will then take things forward.
Okay.
You don't even need to be involved too much in that instance. You just need to tell them where, when, how, and the minute the authorities arrive, you can leave. Then you have the child welfare committees whom you can approach. Of course, then you can also approach the police, right? Now, in case, let's say, you have witnessed an accident, right? And one of the common things is whether you should take the the injured persons to the hospital.
Correct.
And people don't do that because then they'll have to again be involved in the entire process.
Correct.
So now the laws have changed, which says that you need, the bystanders need to help the injured. They should take them to the hospital. Once the victims admitted to the hospital, the bystander should not be harassed by the police.
Okay.
That's very clear. So you can actually, if you do not want to be involved at all, you can actually make a request, and then you can just say that, okay, this is, I saw them, this accident happened, and that's it. The law is not going to come and harass you. Okay, if you do not want to. So that is another instance. Then in colleges, many people face a common problem, that is, let's say, ragging, or you face sexual harassment, whether it's in college or it's at workplace. Then you have, the law says that every institution is supposed to have an appropriate committee which looks into these matters. So you have, every college has an anti-ragging cell. I am sure the students are aware of, are made aware of these cells, especially in their orientation time. So, which will consist of some of the teachers and maybe a lawyer also from outside. So they can always report whatever has happened to them, even if they want, anonymously, in terms of, you can request to keep your name aside, if you fear any repercussion, and then the cell will, take appropriate action sensitively. Even for sexual harassment at workplace, there is supposed to be statutory committees in the organizations where you can report that, you know, this so and so incident has taken place with me and I would like some action to take place, and they will then institute a look into this matter based on your complaint. So that is another, you know, instance where the law can help you. Then it can be also something as basic as if an elderly citizen, you know, they are not getting their pension, or let's say people do not have their ration card. What do we do? Right? These are some common things that they deal with. In such instances, also you should know that there are authorities such as the Legal Services Authority. Each taluk, district, state has their own legal services authorities, right? So you can go to these authorities, which are generally located in the court complex, and speak to them that this is what I'm going through, this is how I need help, and they will then assign a lawyer who, if your case needs a lawyer, then they'll give you a free legal aid if you fall under the category of persons who are entitled for free legal aid, or else they will definitely help you in terms of directing you to the connecting you with the appropriate government authority which can help you out. Then there are like I said, you have law colleges or any other college which has a legal services clinic, right? Let's say you're from the you're staying in a village, you have a property dispute and you need a lawyer to look into it, right? So they can always approach the legal services clinic, and seek if you want an advice, a legal advice, then they can give you, or if you want actual legal help in terms of a lawyer, they can connect you to the empaneled free legal aid lawyers who are available and who will take up your case. Yeah, I mean, I think these are some of the small things for which we think we require law, right? But one thing is that nowadays, because of technology also, a lot of places you don't need a lawyer. Okay. Like the government is bringing up portals online where you can, you today even have a facility that you can register your FIR online. It's called an e-FIR. You don't need to go to the police and sit in front of them and narrate what has happened to you. You can easily fill up the FIR online, and then it will go to the appropriate police station and they will then contact you once they get the details, right? So you can there is so many, like even let's say I want to know from the government something. You have RTIs, right to information, right? So I can easily file an RTI, which I can again do online on the website of the concerned authority. I can just file for an RTI and say I need information regarding so and so. So if it's a government entity with which you want the information, you file this, and within a particular period of time, they'll get back to you with that information.
Okay.
So I think technology is also making our lives easier. So people need not really worry about the system so much now. So that because there's more transparency and there is ease of doing things. So
yeah. Could you also tell us how does it work if the immediate reporting authority does not function as expected? What is it that a common man can do?
Okay. In that case, you can always go up to the higher authority. So, for example, if let's say a police is not registering my FIR, right? That is one concern which is always there, that no, they didn't take my FIR because for whatever reasons, right? So, in that case, you can actually go up to the higher police ranking officer, and you can actually a letter would suffice saying that so and so did not take my complaint, and this was my complaint, and they will make sure that the appropriate directions are given.
Okay.
If that also does not work, or if you don't want to take that route, then you can always go directly to the court also. There are provisions which say that you can directly register a private complaint take it to, take the private complaint to the court, and the court will then listen to you, and then if the court thinks that yes, police intervention is required in this matter, then they will direct the police to investigate and look into the matter.
Okay.
So there are avenues available, even the RTI which I said. Right now, if I don't get response from the government department regarding an information which I am seeking, the RTI Act itself is clear that whom you can approach, the next authority whom you can appeal to, saying that so and so did not get back to me, or my request was denied for this reason, but I don't think that's a valid reason. So you can always go higher up and then ask for what is yours.
Okay. In most of these cases, for people to come up and report a complaint, or not just any concern, it need not be a criminal angle at all to this. There's a lot of fear and stigma associated for the person who is reporting. What would you like to tell them?
See, the one thing which I feel that people should be aware of is that all of us, all of our institutions, all of our systems, they work under the Constitution of India, right? And under the Constitution of India, as a citizen of this country, you have certain rights. Okay, you don't need to know what are these rights in detail, right? How it's taught in law schools, but you need to be aware that anything which seems unfair to you is probably going against the Constitution, right? And none of our authorities have the power to go against the Constitution. So they can essentially not go against your rights. If you think you rightly deserve something, right, or if you think that the authority is doing something which is unfair, right, it infringes on your right, then trust me, in law there is an avenue for you to get that sorted. Right? That is what we need to keep in mind, because people are scared of our system.
Correct.
Right? Especially the people who are maybe not as educated, right, or who are not aware, right. So they think that authorities are over and beyond the law.
Yeah.
They are not, right. Ultimately, they are public servants. They are here to serve you. So you should always go with that mentality that what I'm asking for is right. In case it's denied to me, I always will seek help to go one step higher and see where I can find an answer, right? And there are avenues available, right, which will come to light once you just look into it and research.
Okay. With the rights that you were talking about, that everybody has the right to seek justice to anything that they feel is unfair, I think the basic problem comes down to people not being aware of what their rights are, even what it is, right? Could you just highlight on the top 5 rights that you think people should be aware of, irrespective of the gender?
Okay, so I think as a woman, you should know that you cannot be asked to come to a police station between sunrise, before sunrise and after sunset. Then if you have a child and a child cannot be investigated in a police station, a child has to be interviewed at a place of convenience for the child with the presence of a parent or a social worker. Third being, I think for all of us, using lwas and availability of drinking water is a right in any restaurant or places of entertainment. And as parents, once your child grows up and starts earning, it's illegal for the child to abandon you. He has to maintain you. And for everyone, we should know that in law, wherever there is a right, there is a remedy. So if you feel that something has gone against your right, or something is unfair to you, search and you will find that the law provides you with a remedy.
Thank you so much, Shruthi, for your time and joining us today.
Thank
was a
you so
lovely
much.
conversation, and I'm sure it's created a lot of awareness for a lot of us. There's a lot of things that you shared that we really didn't know. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, and I hope that I've inspired some younger
You
generation to
will.
come into the legal field also.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.